And today I got a cross versus battle here on Thursday for you. And it's a good one too. This one is from, you know, me. I came up with it yesterday and I was just like, okay, I need to get this one out. Because this is Erza from Fairy Tale versus Meraleona from Black Clover. In their full powered forms, anime only, of course, because we do that over here, right? So 100 Year Quest to Urza, yeah, her from the 100 Years Quest, and then Meraleona from, we'll use the movie and shit. I don't give a fuck. She was showing shit in that movie. We seen what she did. And even in like other things, she didn't lose any of her abilities. She only got, more powerful, you know. So in the first scenario, we are in fairy tale world and we're fighting. Urza's fighting against Meraleona like somewhere in Fiore. We'll just say Magnolia, like somewhere there, like maybe near Cardia Cathedral or something. She's like fighting her there. So her strength, or who wins in the strength? I'm giving it to Urza. We've seen time and time again in Fairy Tale, Urza's always there. She's always fighting one of the like more powerful members of the Dark Guild. Now, Meraleona, she's doing things too. Like I remember in the, um, arc where she was, standing on business against the elves, the elf invasion arc, right? In Black Clover. And she was there, staring down, five elves that were at basically full power. And she was, she was, basically at low health bars and she was still standing there. Um, the thing there is like we've seen time and time again that Urza, she prevails and she stands there and she's still there. And Meraleona is like that too, but we've seen it more with Urza, and I think that Urza does is stronger. Physically she can, stand in that fight. She can throw shit around too. She ain't weak. Like physically strong, Urza is. And Meraleona is as well, but I give that to Erza. Speed, I give it to Erza. See, in this fight, I see a lot of like changes going on in her armor. She'll pull out the katana armor at some point, or the katana outfit, where she just gets rid of all of her defense and goes straight on for the offensive because she'll understand that she has to take her down fast, you know, in order to like not be in a long drawn out battle, because she don't want to do that, and she can do that too. But like I think Urza's faster, once she does shit like that. Because like she has heavy ass armor, but then when she like goes out of it and she goes into like her, cheetah form or that like I said, the katana armor or the katana form, she's moving hella quick. Durability though, I think Merlino got it. And I'm looking at like they themselves. So like Urza, right? She has her armors and shit, right? But even those, we've seen those armors break. They're able to be damaged, and then people can bypass that. I don't think that Mary Lerner can't bypass some of these armors that Urza has. Um, and like certain ones she won't be able to, but Meraleona, she is a tough girl. Like she's tough, to damage. It ain't easy to damage her, and she don't even wear armor. She has like monism, and that's it. And that's not even really an armor. She has a layer of magic protecting her skin. Um, and I think it is slightly better than like not all of hers armors, but most of them. And I'll give her that. Because other things are not. Like Urza's endurance is better than Marilona's endurance as well. Like we said again, she endured all that against the people, right? But then she passed out. She was still trying to stand there and fight as like a basically, somebody who's about to die. She wasn't there, but she was trying to like push past and do that. But like Urza actually was able to, during her fight against like Kaoga, the slave star, and also against, Azuma. She knew that she had to win, no matter what. And she ended up, pushing past the limits and beating them. She took on that tower of demons. I don't know. I just think it's close, but I think Erza wins that one. Intelligence wise, I think Erza has it too. Because again, like when she was fighting against the elves, that wasn't a smart move. She could have like left and came back or something. You know, but she wanted to stay there and fight against those elves, and she knew, everybody knew that she couldn't fight against them. That's why Asta and whatever his name is. I keep forgetting if his name's Zora or whatever. But they went in there and they grabbed her and they were like, you're gonna die, girl. You gotta calm the fuck down. Um, like not a smart move, but Urza's, and she ain't like the smartest character in the world either. But I think she's a little smarter than Meraleona. Experience wise, Urza, we've seen a lot more of her than of or Urza's, experiences more than Meraleona's, and we understand that she's like better than like most captains in Black Clover, and she's been doing that shit, and like she's a person who, she's very kind of like manly for a female, like trying to more masculine and shit, right? Even the like other captains that are guys are like, God damn, I don't know if I can beat this bitch, you know. Even with that, Urza's the same way, and similarly, you know, a little more feminine than Meraleona, but even so, she is like, when it comes time to fight, she's a fighter, and she'll fight for her guild no matter what. And this is in the fairy tale world. In this first scenario, Urza wins that. I give the close combat skill though. I do give that to Meraleona. And the thing is, Urza is good at close combat as well, but she's using swords and shit in close combat and stuff, and she sometimes she uses her fists too, but not a lot, but Mira Leona's bringing those hands and shit to the fight, and she's doing that for sure. You saw what she did to Raya the Disloyal and shit. We saw what she was doing there. And then she was fighting against that one Wizard King woman, Princess Funny Bunny or whatever her name is. um, she was there for that fight as well. Now, range skills go to Erza. She can summon all those swords in her Heaven's Will form. That armor. You know, she can summon all those swords and summon them down. She can do that shit with like lightning. She can shoot lightning out. You know, she has different moves in her toolkit with the requip magic that are like long range skills. You know, recoup goes to Urza as well. Regeneration. You know, like it's not that like any of these girls have like regeneration powers per se, but I think that she could recover quicker than Mira Leona could. And that's just me. Maybe you think other things, and that's fine too, because these girls are like, they're like same, almost like the same side character in their each respective, verses, right? Like they fulfill like similar roles and shit. Hacks go to Urza, right? Erza has all those armor. Like she has, I don't know how many armors. You know, I'll just round it up to like 30 armors. Probably. You know, some more useful than others, but she knows when to use them and when to not. And she can also like take certain weapons that come with other armors and use it with another armor. So she could use like her Blackwing armor, but hold the sword that she uses when she's in her Flame Empress armor and fight. She can do shit like that. You know, Meralina only has fire magic, but Mana Zone, that's a thing that intensifies her, fire attacks, right? And then she like again, she's good in like close quarters as well. But I got Urza still with the hacks. And then she has like now she has a sword that's good at cutting down dragons and shit. And basically, Meraleona is like a monster, kind of, So what I mean. She ain't a dragon per se, but she like is an animal and shit. So Urza has that. You know, environment goes to Urza because it's in Magnolia, but we switch it. You know, And in the second scenario, we're in the Black Clover world. You're gonna see some things. Some people who watch Black Clover, watch Fairy Tale too, man, and I'm right. Girls too. But strength still goes to Urza. Urza is like a girl. She throws shit around. And Meraleona does too. But I think that physically, strength. I gotta give it to Urza. That don't change even when you switch over. Speed goes to Erza as well. She has certain armors that do weigh her down, but she can easily switch out of that into like some fast armor and get on the move. We've seen her, use that shit time and time. She did that against Azuma, you know, and Meraleona's, quick enough too, but not for her. Durability goes to Meraleona. As I'm saying, her armor is like one armor, but it's like the girl is tough to damage. I believe this girl Meraleona. She's a tough cookie. And Urza is too. But we know that she's broken bones and shit, and had to keep fighting with broken bones. Not durable. But what's the next thing? Endurance. That goes to Urza. Let's say that she gets hit out of one of her armors, because like I do think Meraleona can do shit like that. She can like bypass like the Flame Empress armor. If she like gets mad enough, she can like break that shit. And then damage Urza. She's like, oh shit, I put on the Flame Empress armor, but this bitch is like pushing past and breaks it. Even so, Urza's still gonna be in that fight. She's still gonna keep on fighting. It's Urza for that stat as well. Intelligence, Urza got it. And just by a little bit, she just in the past I've seen, Meraleona was kind of not smart. You know, it was brave, and she was showing great confidence or arrogance. But experience also goes to Urza because I've just seen Urza way more. Meraleona's seen battles too, and she was there during the invasion of the elves and shit, and she was there during the fight with the Wizard Kings. You know, and then other things later on too. But Urza gets this one. Close skills though, I am giving it to Meraleona. And Urza, she does have some hands, but I think Meraleona got him better. She got him better. She's always, running up on people. She ran up on everybody she had to fight. Um, Range skills, I'm giving it to Urza still. Um, maybe you could say, oh, but her Monozone works better in her verse. So like now, she can, spam fire attacks, from a distance. Urza has like shit she can do like that too. And she can, summon all those blades. I think, Urza got that. Um, Recoup goes to Urza as well. You can, debate about that if you want to. I wouldn't get mad if you thought, Meraleona did, but I think Urza does. Um, Hacks, you know, and let me say this about the Riku. She fought against Azuma, and then like not long afterwards, she went to go fight against Hades. And she was doing what she could with what she had, the health bar she had, and other things. Meraleona had to like take a longer rest. I swear to God, it was a longer rest. And she did get back on the move, but she was like, I don't know, she wasn't where she actually wanted to be. And then Urza was actually there. I don't know what that tells you, but that tells me she was still recovering. on their way to like help Austin them out. But Erza is there for like the big boss. I'm just saying, hacks go to Erza as well. Erza has the hacks department down as well. She has so many armors, you know. She's, good at fighting, hand to hand if she has to get up close. Um, but in like with like magical weapons like the Dragon Slayer sword, that cuts down dragons, and I already said, Meraleona's like an animal. And she is, you don't fuck around and lie, we've seen that in Black Clover. You know, they equated her to like a lion or some type of beast. But the environment does go to Meraleona. She has, a reason to fight. This is my land. This is the Clover Kingdom. I won't let you, somebody who ain't from here, invade. You know. But even so, when it's all said and done, it's high diff, I think. And I think Erza wins this. High to extreme diff. But be cool, call in the corner, and let me know what you think about these bitches fighting one another in the comments below.